I still remember the day the postcard arrived, its vibrant splash of turquoise sea against a backdrop of impossibly white sand, a stark contrast to the dull gray of my daily routine. It was from Mark, my ex-husband, a man I hadn't seen or spoken to in 10 long years. The postcard depicted a secluded cove, a lone sailboat bobbing gently on the water, and a scrawled message that made my heart skip a beat. Wish you were here. Still thinking about you. The audacity of it. 10 years, a whole decade since the acrimony of our divorce, the messy division of assets, the bitter taste of betrayal, all seemingly washed away by a tropical breeze and a cheeky postcard. As I stood in my kitchen, the postcard trembling in my hand, I felt a familiar, unwelcome flutter in my chest. Mark knew me too well, knew the places that still held the echoes of our shared past, the memories that we had created together in our younger, more carefree days. He knew that I had always dreamed of this kind of escape, of sailing the turquoise waters of some far-flung paradise, of feeling the wind in my hair and the sun on my skin. And he knew that I had never quite given up on that dream, even as I had built a new life with David, a man who appreciated quiet evenings by the fire and shared a comfortable silence with me that Mark never could. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was happily married, or so I thought, to a man who understood the deep contentment of routine, of tending a garden, of quiet laughter shared over a cup of tea. David was the antithesis of Mark, a steady and reliable presence in my life, a man who had never once made me feel like I was missing out on something more. And yet, here was Mark, triggering a dormant longing for the intoxicating chaos of our younger days, the breathless excitement of unplanned adventures. It was the very essence of that excitement that had eventually fractured our marriage, the constant need for something more, a relentless chase after the next horizon. As I stood there, the postcard still clutched in my hand, I felt like I was torn between two worlds. On one hand, I had my life with David, a life that was comfortable and predictable, a life that I had built with care and attention. On the other hand, I had the memories of my life with Mark, memories that were fraught with drama and excitement, memories that still had the power to stir my blood. It was a strange feeling, like I was being pulled in two different directions, like I was being asked to choose between two different versions of myself. I tossed the postcard into the recycling bin, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in my stomach. But as I turned to walk away, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and for a moment, I saw a ghost of my former self, the self that I had left behind when I divorced Mark. It was a self that was young and wild and free, a self that had been unafraid to take risks and push boundaries. And as I looked at that self, I felt a pang of regret, a sense that I had lost something precious when I left Mark, something that I could never get back. The rest of the day was a blur, as I went about my routine, trying to shake off the feeling of restlessness that had settled in my bones. But as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, I found myself thinking about Mark again, wondering what he was doing, wondering if he was happy. And as I thought about him, I felt a sense of sadness, a sense that I had made a mistake by leaving him, a sense that I had given up on something special. It wasn't until I saw David, my husband, waiting for me at home, his smile warm and reassuring, that I felt a sense of calm wash over me. He was the anchor that held me grounded, the rock that kept me steady. And as I looked at him, I knew that I had made the right choice, that I had chosen the right man, the man who loved me for who I was, not for who I used to be. But as we sat down to dinner, and David asked me about my day, I found myself hesitating, unsure of how to tell him about the postcard, unsure of how to explain the feelings that it had stirred up. And so I said nothing, just smiled and nodded, trying to push the thoughts of Mark to the back of my mind. It wasn't until later, when we were watching TV, and David fell asleep beside me, that I allowed myself to think about Mark again, to wonder what could have been, to wonder what would have happened if I had stayed with him. The days that followed were a struggle, as I found myself torn between my loyalty to David and my lingering feelings for Mark. It was like I was living two separate lives, one with David, and one in my imagination with Mark. And as the days turned into weeks, I began to feel like I was losing my grip on reality, like I was living in a dream world, a world that was neither here nor there. It wasn't until I received a second postcard from Mark, this one with a picture of a sunset over the ocean, that I knew I had to do something. The message on this one was simple: just 2 words, come back. And as I read them, I felt a surge of emotion, a sense that I was being given a second chance, a chance to relive the past, to recapture the excitement and the passion of my youth. But as I looked at the postcard, I knew that I couldn't go back, that I couldn't relive the past. I had made a choice to leave Mark and start a new life with David. And as I thought about that choice, I knew that it was the right one, that I had chosen the right man, the man who loved me for who I was, not for who I used to be. I didn't respond to the postcard, didn't acknowledge it in any way. Instead, I threw it away, just like I had thrown away the first one. And as I did, I felt a sense of closure, a sense that I had finally put the past behind me. I knew that I would always carry the memories of Mark with me, but I also knew that I had to move on, that I had to live in the present, not in the past. As the months went by, I found myself growing closer to David, growing more comfortable in my own skin. I realized that I didn't need the excitement and the passion of my youth to be happy, that I could find joy and fulfillment in the simple things, in the quiet moments with the man I loved. And as I looked at David, I knew that I had made the right choice, that I had chosen the right man, the man who loved me for who I was, not for who I used to be. The adventure, I realized, wasn't in chasing fleeting escapes, but in cherishing the stability I had finally found. It was in the quiet moments with David, in the laughter we shared, in the memories we created together. It was in the knowledge that I had found my home, my haven, my place in the world. And as I looked at David, I knew that I would never let go, that I would never give up on the love we shared, the love that had brought me peace, comfort, and happiness.